The world he lived in was destroyed when a gate opened and monsters poured out. He spent his whole life fighting because he had to just to survive. Day after day, months turned into years, and before he knew it, a decade had passed, time slipped away like nothing. With only a sword, he could cut down anything, and he wasn't even afraid anymore. That changed when a massive monster towered over him. The giant told him to give up. The world he once knew had already perished. It was the monster who had caused it. Calling him a waste of talent, it demanded he become its sword instead. The man snapped, "Don't make me laugh," and charged. He raised his blade as the giant threw a fist toward him. He sidestepped and sliced through its fingers precisely, but the giant was left unfazed. He moved in to strike it a second time, but instead got swatted out of the air, and he barely managed to block. The giant told him to struggle all he wanted. He was nothing more than an insect to him. Bleeding and unable to defend forever, our hero backed off, then rushed in once more. He leapt for the giant's chest, but its hands smacked him down as if he were nothing. Staggering to his feet, his eyes locked onto a pendant on the giant's chest. It had to be a weak point. The giant raised his sword. The man gripped his own like a javelin and hurled it with everything he had. It blasted through the pendant, pierced the giant's chest, and kept soaring into the sky. The giant's strike froze just short of his head. The monster's chest regenerated, but the pendant remained shattered. Cursing, it screamed and tried to finish him off with the last of its strength, but its body crumbled just like the pendant before it could reach him. Our hero crashed to the ground, covered in blood. Looking up, he spots a shooting star. He says it's a beautiful view and blacks out. We cut to a guy rocking sandals who walks through town when an alarm beeps. He's at the rank B Namsen Gate, which requires at least 3 rank C heroes. Staff announce scanning of hero registration and ID. Civilians aren't allowed. He stands before the Yongsan district in Seoul, looks up, and decides to forcefully break through the gate with just a kick. Alarms then warn about an unregistered hero who just forced his way into the gate, and he's already entered the area. He wanders through a forest until a group calls to him, asking if he's lost. They say they're heading out and he can come with them. They comment on his clothes, saying he doesn't look like a hero at all. He's way too casual and he's only carrying a backpack. Is this guy a confused, homeless man? He says he hears them, but he literally just got here. They ignore that and say he definitely got left behind. The leader steps in and says he's seen plenty like him. He guesses our guy watched Hunt online and wanted to try, but walking into a gate like this is suicide. He tells him to get a hero license and pass the test first, and reminds him this is a C-rank gate. Our boy insists he knows they're trying to help, but he doesn't remember asking. He walks away and the others drop it, calling him a crazy bastard. They figure he'll learn soon that gates aren't like what you see online. A shadow falls over him and he looks up to a giant monster. He slips off his backpack with a sigh as it lunges for his head and says, "It's been 10 years since I last aura farmed." The strike hits where he was, but he's already moved. Then he steps in and one punches the monster's head clean off. It drops to its knees and blood splatters everywhere. He casually lands and says nothing's changed since back then. He stares at the monster, then reaches out and checks his reflection in the monster's blade, and he looks a little surprised. He then uses it to cut into the monster. He pulls out a low-grade magic stone. In the past, he wouldn't have even looked at such a thing, but now he bags it and zips up. As he stores it, he spots movement to his right. More monsters rush him, closing in from behind. One swings and he ducks under the blow, then he clenches the low-grade stone and yeets it, and it blows one of their heads off. As that one hits the ground, the other 2 rush in, so he drops his bag and prepares. Meanwhile, the earlier team wanders the area. The girl wonders what happens if he actually dies, and a teammate asks if she's worried. One says if that guy really is an intruder, control center agents would already be on the way, since this is the Namsen Gate, rank C. With a gate this rank, they'd send elite B rank or higher agents, and as long as he doesn't lose it and attack a monster first, he won't die, so don't worry. She agrees and says that disrespectful jerk is probably trembling, waiting for the agents to save him. But actually, it's the monster's trembling. He cracks one in the head. He holds back this time so it doesn't explode. Another comes from behind. He slips aside and its weapon slams into the floor. It notices he's already behind it with his leg raised, and he kicks, tearing out a chunk of its skull and dropping it cold. He grabs the blade again and says that's 3 more magic stones, then digs into the bodies and pulls them out. He bags them and says the haul isn't great. He's at 12 low grade and 16 lower mid-grade stones. A control center agent spots him and calls for his squad to rush in. They surround him, saying they're from the gate control center. They ask for his hero registration card. If he's unregistered, he needs to come with them. He just asks what the guy is yapping about. The man tells him to just comply, clearly annoyed. Our guy says he doesn't have time for this and calls them annoying. The agent then tells another to get the cuffs and warn that if he refuses, they'll use force. Grabbing his hand, he says if he resists, any injuries are on him, so come peacefully and resolve it. He pulls an Uno reverse and grabs the agent's hand and tells them to stop bothering him and orders them to leave. The others draw their batons. He notes a grade 4 magic seal on them. It might work on an orc, but it's nothing to him. He twists a guy's wrist and drops him. He gives a final warning. If they don't want to get hurt or worse, they should leave now. They still don't listen and charge. He bats aside both batons and dodges a follow-up kick. He drives his knee into one man's side, then keeps the motion and kicks another in the chest, sending him flying. One guard realizes they messed up, hella nervous, and freezes. Our boy glares and disappears from his view. The guard can't tell where he went, and next thing he knows, he's folded in half as a hit slams into his gut. He's still coughing from the punch when our boy asks, "Registered heroes aren't a problem, right?" The guard says yeah, if there's no illegal activity inside the gate, no one gets dispatched. Our boy then asks about rift zones, which throws the guard off. Monsters started appearing all over the world through dimensional passages. Their byproducts became a new energy source, so the state strictly controls the passages and locks monsters behind gates. Areas that haven't stabilized into gates yet are called rift zones. Our guy says that if he goes through any gate, they'll still chase him for trespassing or whatever. The guard admits that's right. He'll get auto-reported to the control center, and nearby agents roll out. As for rift zones, they're not as easy to enter, and the Hero Association won't ignore it either. Our boy says, then nonchalantly grabs the guard by the face, who calls him crazy, and he gets thrown back into the trees. Bro Loki seems bored and says they're nothing special. The guard staggers up, yelling he'll kill him while our boy just walks away. When our hero killed that giant after the pendant broke, he lost consciousness right after. While hearing the monster scream something, he felt himself getting pulled somewhere. He thought he was dying, but when he opened his eyes, he was floating down toward a new body. He asked who it was. The body belonged to Seo Dojun. Dojun introduced himself and said he was dying, and if the man grants his request, he'll disappear quietly. Our hero instantly refused. Our hero then laid it out. 10 years of fighting, betrayed by someone he trusted. The country he lived in was ruined, friends and family dead. He no longer had any attachments to life, so the hero asked Dojun if he was the same. Dojun agreed with one exception. His grandma and Yunyong are still alive, and he doesn't want them to live like that. The hero sighed and asked what he wanted. Dojun brightens and starts to say his wish. Then we jump to the Gas and Digital Complex in Seoul, now called the Hero Complex since most shops deal in gate byproducts. Dojun walks in and picks a store. The cashier greets him and Dojun says he's selling magic stones and pours them all onto the table. The guy is shocked, seeing the blood still on the stones, but stays calm and tells him to wait a moment. He'll sort them. The cashier offers Dojun a coffee, and he agrees while the guy still cleans and counts. He finally finishes and says their fee is 40% of the purchase and shows the number, feeling cute. Dojun cuts him off. He did the hunting and their cut is 40%. The guy says that's how it works. He pulls the forbidden Indian seller tactic and tells our boy that the special rate is only because of him. He offers Dojun to take the stones back if he doesn't like it, and our boy is already at it. The cashier then grabs his hand and says there's still a sorting fee. The coffee isn't free either, and that bloody towel was expensive, so he's paying for that too. Dojun says he's got no money. The cashier grins and says they've got a few C-rank heroes backing them, then he summons his goons. The squad walks in. One asks why they were called and who's making trouble. Dojun glances up. The scarred guy meets his eyes. Next thing we know, the cashier is shivering his timbers as one guy smashes into the counter. Frozen, the cashier stares as Dojun flexes his 30-inch arms. Smoke rises from his fist and he steps up. Dojun says the fee is 1% and from now on it's a fair deal. The cashier wimp nods fast and Dojun tells him he'll come back next time. At home, he slams the cash on the table, and Grandma and Yunyong are stunned and ask what's with all the money. He says he once lent cash to a friend who was starting a business, and it took off. Grandma doubts he has a friend like that, but he says she knows the neighborhood he grew up in. It's an old buddy from back then, and she nods. Yunyong, his sister, asks if they're rich now. He says yes, from now on they are, and he pats her head, and she runs around in victory laps. Watching her, our hero remembers the wish made by the original Dojun. It was for his grandma and Yunyong to live in a house safer than anywhere else. He couldn't answer before the original faded, and he woke up as Dojun and has been living as him since. The safest house in Korea costs 110 billion won. Although he doesn't owe that one-sided promise, once he gets his power back, that kind of money is nothing, so he might as well grant his wish as a side mission. For him, the sword god, this world is child's play, but right now he's weak. Not even 10% of his strength has returned. Someone pounds on the door, asking if he's inside. He tells the others to stay put and opens it to two men. They say it's time to pay the 48 million won he borrowed. He recognizes them as the loan sharks the real Dojun borrowed from before he died for Grandma's hospital bills. They say he must have made money from the gate, so hand it over according to the contract. Dojun swings past the yellow-toothed guy who is still trash-talking and cracks the other guy in the face, launching him into the wall. The trash talker stares, and Dojun says he's already paid back over 9 million, 4 million more than the original loan amount, so if anything, they should be paying him. Panicking, the guy asks if he's really Dojun, and Dojun just tells him to warn his boss he'll visit soon, then floors him too. In the mall, Yunyong eyes some teddy bears and asks if she can have one. Dojun says yes, clothes are done, so grab whatever else you want. Since he shares Dojun's memories, his emotions are coming back. It's mostly sympathy, weird but wholesome. Dojun has been kind to Yoonyoung even though she's his half-sister, and he'll protect that side of his. She picks a small rabbit and asks him if this one is fine, but he yanks a giant bear off the wall. Her eyes light up. He reminds her to buy what she wants, and she laughs. They hit the food court when someone calls out to Dojun again. A Big Mac shows up with 2 bodyguards, asks why he's dressed so well when he's nothing special, and who the kid is. Did he mess up like his mother, the Big Mac asks. He glares, the guards stare back, and Yoonyoung asks who this old witch is. He keeps quiet, so she presses, asking if he's mute, then turns to Yoonyoung and asks if she's from the Yoon family. The Big Mac then calls the clothes Yoonyoung is wearing pathetic, just like her mother, and asks Dojun if she isn't right. Dojun is annoyed by the ugly-ass woman and she doubles down, asking Yoonyoung if she knows what a hoe is. Dojun's done. He says someone as ugly as an orc shouldn't talk. Dojun was born out of wedlock and grew up poor. When his mother died when he was 7, he moved into his biological father's house. He spent more than 10 years there, getting pushed around and neglected, and once the second wife had a son, they ignored him completely and kicked him out. He ended up at his grandma's place with a half-sibling he'd never met. The sword god respects how much he endured and says he'll handle it from here. It will be different now, he promises, and Dojun finally stands up, saying they lived together for 12 years and she still disgusts him. The looks, the personality, all of it. He calls her brain useless and says she has a huge inferiority complex toward anyone prettier than her, which is almost everybody on the planet. As for his half-sister, he says she is better in any way. She actually cares about him and his financial state. He stares down at the Big Mac, waiting for a response. It gets mad and asks what he just said. A woman walks up and tells Dojun it's been a while. She moves toward them. The Big Mac starts crying and calls that woman her mom, telling her what he called her. The mother tells her to cut it out and to shut up. She then asks if he's been doing well and says even if he's busy, he should come home once in a while. Dojun calls her a fake hypocrite who tormented him for almost 12 years. She says his father worries about him, and he snaps that it makes him sick. They're not in the kind of relationship to talk to each other that way, and he tells her to get lost. Her smile drops right away. She turns and walks off, muttering that this can't be the Dojun she knows. The old him would bow his head even if someone slapped him for no reason. His half-cheeseburger sister chases after her mother while Dojun watches, then he tells Yoonyoung it's time to go. The Dojun they knew doesn't exist anymore. In the car, the girl asks her mother why they just left. She should have crushed him. She tries to repeat what Dojun called her, but her mom ignores it and calls a bodyguard over, asking why Dojun is still alive. He says the report clearly said someone named Kang Chulwoo left him at a rift zone, and she yells, exactly. So why is someone who should be dead still alive? The guard says he'll double-check it. The girl in a shaky voice asks what she means about him being dead and keeps pushing, asking if she really tried to kill Dojun. Her mom shoots back, asking if she still has feelings for him, and the girl says it's not like that, but if grandpa or dad find out, it's over. Her mother covers her mouth and says she'll handle it herself, so stay out of it. She is fuming in anger, calls Dojun a lowborn bastard, then says she'll get rid of him no matter what. Turns out the mother is even worse than the daughter. 10 years ago, the first rift zone opened, monsters poured out, and the world fell into extreme chaos. Heroes rose up, things calmed down, and mana stones from monsters started replacing old energy sources. Countries put everything into turning rifts into gates, and now the whole industrial structure revolves around gates and heroes. If you want money, you become a hero. Dojun heads to Yeongdeungpo, a registration building. Inside, a guy smoking asks if he's here to pay his debts, and behind him are the 2 lone sharks from Dojun's house. The guy says he can't believe Dojun showed up after wrecking his boys. Dojun says the more he thinks about it, the more he feels like it was a loss. He says he wants compensation for the mental, physical, and material damage they caused. The boss says the kid's attitude changed, and judging by how he trashed his men, it must mean Dojun awakened in a gate. He asks if Dojun wants to hear what happened to other punks who thought they were hot stuff after awakening, and more men file in and surround him. The boss keeps going. Those guys still ended up D-rank trash, and he's got plenty of D-ranks who won't let Dojun run his mouth. Dojun stays silent for a moment, then tells him to sit down. He's not done talking. One of his goons charges, yelling that he can't believe Dojun's talking to him in that way. Dojun carefully grabs the guy's glasses, flicks them off, and cracks him in the face, sending him flying. He punches another in the cheek and says they're just shitty loan sharks, and he knows they forge IDs, paperwork crimes, too. Dojun goes in to smash the last one into pieces. He wipes the room, then tells the boss to forge him a hero ID, make it perfect, untraceable, and done by tomorrow. The boss and his 2 goons stare, shocked at how strong he is. The boss wonders what his power is. This guy is not D-rank, probably C-rank. No way, he might be B-rank. The boss bows like a good boy and says he'll do it. Dojun rests a hand on his shoulder and adds one more thing. Did Hong Heeju order the boss to kill him? The guy hesitates, so Dojun squeezes his collarbone until he screams. He breaks and admits it was her. She wanted Dojun so deep in debt he'd end his own life, then begs to be released. Dojun asks if that's why he was thrown into the gate. The boss says he knows nothing about that. Why would he toss a debtor into a gate and risk losing his money? He swears he's telling the truth. Dojun thinks it over, connecting dots, and names Kang Chulwoo as the one who dragged him into the gate, and tells them to pull everything they have on him by tomorrow. The boss agrees, and they bow as Dojun leaves. On the way back, Dojun remembers the original Dojun's wish to keep his family safe, and he says he'll make it happen. The next day, they already forged him a B-rank hero card. He swipes it at the gate terminal and it verifies, but the system warns he's below the recommended level and asks him to think carefully before entering. Dojun isn't looking too satisfied. Those jerks should have made him at least A rank. The warning keeps repeating, but he goes in anyway. He enters the Bamsium Tunnel gate. It is B rank and recommends at least 2 A rank people. Even though it's B rank, the D-grade scale size makes soloing rough. But since it's a tunnel type, it is for small groups only, unless you're around A rank, clearing it's a pain. If you're unlucky, you can end up alone with hundreds of monsters in a dark, narrow tunnel. A serpent slides out, and Dojun pulls out his new gloves wherever he got them from. He likes this. The snake lunges and he blitzes past and rips the mana crystal right out of its chest. Another bears its fangs, dripping venom. He calls it a black fang snake. Graze it and you're paralyzed. He carefully drops low, pivots, then dashes through and slices it to pieces. He checks his gloves, impressed. He bought them for 300,000 won and they are worth the money, holding that venom off. He notices more serpents pouring in, but he tears through them, ripping bodies apart and splashing venom everywhere. After a while, he digs through the corpses and searches for magic stones. If it's like his previous world, vipers only drop stones about 3% of the time. He'll need to kill hundreds. This time he didn't get a single stone. He reaches a pile of skeletons with black miasma hanging over them and looks up. The boss appears. A giant black fang viper. He says he wasn't sure where the path was, but this works. He'll finish fast and get out as he charges his strike. He hits the viper hard, but the only one getting hurt is himself. His wrist sprains and he is pushed back. He only dented the skull and can't believe it's not enough. The viper charges in with its tail and smashes him into a wall. It follows up with a bite and he barely backsteps away, then rushes in and punches its side again. Still no real damage, which he kind of expected. This one's way tougher than the small fry. Its hide is too hard for punches. If his original strength were back, this thing would be nothing. Wondering what to do, he spots a sword on the ground and decides he'll have to use that one if he wants to stand a chance against the viper. He pulls the buried blade out. It is old and worn out, but he says age is just a number, and what counts is the technique. He says he's borrowing it for a bit and the serpent charges in. He kicks off the ground and takes to the air. "Consider it an honor to be destroyed by my hand," he says, tightening his grip as the monster looks up. He strikes, and a yellow burst of energy lights up where the strike landed as he is already on the ground and still holding the old, now shattered sword. Shards slice past him. He says if he'd missed, that would have been a disaster. He goes to the corpse and rips out one of its fangs, looks it over, and says it's too short for a longsword, but with some work it'll be usable. Still, this job pays better than anything else, so that's a relief. He leaves the dungeon, annoyed he wasted so much time on a B-rank gate, saying getting his power back is his top priority, and he's glad his old comrades aren't around to see him like this. Back at the magic stone shop, someone is there to sell some stuff while the clerk says the commission is 40% as usual. The dude complains it's steep and asks for a regular's discount. The clerk says no, theirs is already the cheapest. The gate center alone takes a 5% base on top of the other 45%, and since they don't keep records here, he can commit tax fraud and doesn't have to pay the government. The guy admits that's true, then asks what happened to the clerk's face. "Don't ask," the clerk says. "Some crazy bastard wrecked their guards and even him." The customer says that's what you get for trusting C-rank guards. Rank is just a government label, skill is different. A newbie with a license guarding a shop isn't the same as a hero risking their life in a dungeon. The clerk just wants him to stop nagging and go. The man says they've known each other a while and if he needs help, just ask. As he turns to leave, Dojun walks in and stares him down. The clerk freezes, shouting that this is the guy who attacked him. The guy looks Dojun up and down, quickly glazes him, calling him tall with a pretty boy face, and asks how he can go around calling himself a hero while beating up civilians. The clerk grins and says this one's a 7-year veteran with lots of connections, so messing with him would be trouble. Dojun tells the guy to mind his business and to get lost, which ticks him off instantly. Dojun asks if he's here for revenge or something. The man clenches his fist, dead serious, but then remembers the #1 cause of death for heroes isn't monsters, it's fights with other heroes. Then his instincts kick in. He tells him he is busy, actually, and backs off, leaving the clerk stunned. The clerk can't believe his bro folded under zero pressure. Dojun just tosses over a bag of crystals and tells him to count it. The clerk is shocked they're all high grade and asks who he is. He totals it at 150 million won. Dojun, annoyed after a full day of hunting, says that's it and tells him to pay up. Rent is due. The clerk starts to bring up the commission, but Dojun gives him a look and he shuts up. Dojun says if the fee is 1%, the payout is 148.5. The clerk wants to call him a bastard and say it's 40%, but he'd rather live, so he says he needs his boss's approval for a deal like this. Dojun tells him to hurry and do it right now. The clerk calls his boss and goes over what happened, but Dojun snatches the phone. He tells the person on the line to listen. He wants his money now. The boss says he gets it and asks for his employee's phone back. Dojun glances to the side, flicks his wrist, and sends the phone smashing into the wall. He tells the guy to get the money since the boss agreed. The guy nods and starts digging through bags while Dojun says he hopes their next trade is just as cool. The clerk is left wondering since when a one-sided deal like that was cool. About 10 minutes later, the boss shows up, asking why his guy isn't answering and what that earlier call was. The clerk says he's done, he's quitting and can't take it anymore. The boss spots the phone stuck in the wall, then calls someone named Juyeon, says something came up and asks her to come over. We see a woman walking straight toward their store while people stare at her. She is basically a celebrity. She steps in, the clerk greets her and then freezes. He asks if she's really high on Juyeon and she confirms. She's Korea's 4th S-rank hero and he's heard she's the boss's niece. He wonders why she's here. Juyeon says she's here because she heard a hero has been forcing the sale of mana crystals and giving her uncle a headache, then asks him for the details. Over at Dojun's place, Yoonyoung is playing with her grizzly teddy bear while Dojun trains, and he groans that even if he hunts all day, he barely makes 100 million. At this rate, he'll be too late. He needs to solo S-rank gates sooner, which means getting his power back. But unlike his past world, mana here is thin. Even if he gathers it every day, it'll take 3 years if not longer, and they only have Timu gear in this world. He suddenly senses something, rushes to grab Yoonyoung and tells her to get inside. Grandma asks what's going on as the whole house starts shaking. They say it's an earthquake and Yoonyoung screams. Dojun says it's not that. Just then the space tears open outside and a strange rift forms in their yard. Granny asks what it is. Dojun tells them it's dangerous and they need to stay inside, then he bolts straight into it without hesitating while they call his name. At the Seoul Hero Association, they report a new rift in Mappo, the first in 63 days. The White Lion Guild is closest, so they're told to contact them and dispatch nearby heroes quickly. The rift was detected in a private yard, which is a problem, unlike the haircut, which goes incredibly hard. If a civilian enters the rift, no one else can go in until that person comes out. If they die, a monster wave hits the zone for 10 days and Seoul will be overrun. They ask if the entrant was identified. The staff says a man went in to save his younger sister, according to the grandmother, but they have no registered rank info. Since a civilian entered, they put the odds of a monster wave at 99.9% and the room sinks. Somewhere else, a stack of files lands on the stepmother's desk. She asks what he means. Dojun awakened. Her guard says he's not registered yet, but it's certain. She curses at Kang Chulwoo and says that he himself should have killed Dojun already, and complains they took her money without doing the job. She orders him to tell Chulwoo if he can't kill Dojun, he'll pay back 10 times the fee. The guard says there's no need. There's a new rift in Mappo at Dojun's house. They've confirmed he went in and the media will announce it soon. She says then that means they won't have to see that bastard again, and he agrees. She cools off and tells him to keep watch until it's confirmed. Inside the gate, Dojun finds himself under massive trees. He looks around and says it's hard to believe, but he knows this place, Patasua Forest, where he used to spend lots of time as a kid. The trees, the wind, the thick mana in the air, all of it matches, and if he follows the path ahead, it should be exactly like he remembers. He smiles when he spots the world tree in the distance. That tree is an ancient spirit tree that carries high purity mana. The last world he was in collapsed because this tree burned and the mana flow broke. Here, it's still standing. He doesn't know why, but it means he can get back the mana he once had. He grins and says luck's really on his side as he settles in to absorb what he can. He concentrates on his breathing and 3 days pass and he forgets about food and water. In total, he spends 10 days of just breathing and absorbing mana. His eyes finally snap open, creepy-looking monsters close in. He says these are the ones that burned the world tree before. As they leap at him, he mutters it'd be nice to have a water attribute sword, then says it won't matter anyway and raises his hand. He floods it with aura and says he'll crush every last one of them here, and fires a mana wave that makes one scream in pain. He stares them down and the others freeze. While they hesitate, he explains that it was a technique which releases mana as a form of chi and makes it explode upon contact, and it's been a while since he's used that much. They start charging a breath attack and fire multiple shots from the side. He throws up a barrier in an instant and lets their attacks bounce off, saying the world tree's safe, and now he needs to check how much of his old mana returned. He stands before them as they begin to roar, and then immediately grabs two by the mouth, lifts them, and slams their heads together. Flames burst from their heads and the bodies turn to ash, dropping magic crystals. He says that confirms it, and if he keeps killing these, he can also get the undying ember. He smiles, remembering the drop rate was pretty high, and wonders how many they will drop. They swarm him, but he cuts through them with smooth, quick moves. Corpses keep turning to ash until the place finally goes quiet. He sees an undying ember on the ground, picks it up, and says he's glad it dropped. He crushes it, which sparks a flame in his palm, and he shapes it into a ball. He says he'd love to draw more mana from the world tree, but his body can't handle more yet. There's only one method he can use now, which is to absorb the ember. He presses it to his chest and switches his mana into a fire attribute. Flames pour out, even from his mouth. Embers used to be nothing to him, and now it takes him 10 minutes to absorb just one. He looks at the rest scattered around, swings his hand, and keeps absorbing, hoping it speeds up. For now, he will absorb as long as he can. Back at his house, a crowd gathers around the rift. A man, Bang Xiangwu, is pissed, saying because of one crazy bastard they might all be doomed. Another guy with him, Kim Hyunwoo, says not to hate him too much since he did it to save his little sister. Xiangwu says that was probably just something he said. He probably heard it's easier to awaken in a rift zone and rushed in without thinking. If he wanted to die, he should have done it alone. Hyunwoo asks what the guildmaster said. Xiangwu says the usual wait for the wave, and he wonders where the guildmaster even is. Rifts popped up at the same time in the US, China, basically everywhere, and the guildmaster's probably busy because of that. It's the first time anything like this has happened, but he heard they managed to control it early in those places. Xiangwu's fuming, saying they're the only ones who got screwed over because of one bastard, and if that guy shows himself, he'll smash his face in. It hasn't been a couple days, it's already been 28 days since Dojin went in. The Hero Association has already issued a level 1 monster wave alert, prepping for a wave, and if Dojin doesn't come out within 2 days, then someone cuts the TV, none other than Hwang Changseop. He tells his guy that the civilian is definitely Dojin. The assistant, Iangu, says his men confirmed it. Changseop asks the odds of that bastard coming back alive. Iangu says if he's a civilian, there's no need to talk about possibilities, it's not even 0.1%. Changseop smiles and says there's no way Dojin's a civilian. The association's got it wrong and doesn't have the info, every other one of their guys got flattened. He asks the odds if Dojin's an awakened. Iangu says it depends on his rank, hard to judge. Changseop gets it. Being good at fighting and surviving a rift aren't the same. Iangu then mentions that Dojin has 2 family members and suggests kidnapping his family. When Iangu asks what he thinks, Changseop says to treat them well for now. If Dojin dies, they'll sell the family's organs. If he lives, they'll claim they took care of them and tack on new debt. Inside the rift, Dojin's been absorbing embers for who knows how long. He's taken in hundreds. He can use fire mana whenever he wants now, and his fire resistance has shot up. Looking at the fire attribute alone, he's now stronger than when people called him the sword god. He touches the world tree, thanks it for helping him again in his past and even now, then sweeps up all the monster's magic cores. He says he might never see the tree again, but if they meet and it's in danger, he'll protect it to pay back the mana it gave him. Back at his house at night, he steps out of the rift and checks the ground. It is too quiet. There are no signs of any presence within a kilometer, maybe everyone evacuated for the wave. He senses a slightly strong presence in one direction and takes off immediately. He spots Xiangwu and Hyunwoo, and judging by their outfits, he recognizes them as the same guys from the last gates. Getting caught would be a pain. He gathers fire in his hand and throws it into the air. It drops nearby, dramatic pause included, then blows up completely. Hyunwoo and Xiangwu hear the sound and leap toward the fire, wondering why a fire started out of nowhere as people already gather around calling for the fire department. Dojin notes his shot landed exactly where he wanted. Then he asks Cusack if this is a flame even he would admire. In his old life, Cusack was the continent's strongest fire mage. Hyunwoo suddenly tells Xiangwu to wait, the rift looks off. It's fading, so they sprint back. They stop, and Xiangwu realizes if it's disappearing, that means it was cleared, while Dojin heads up some stairs and takes one last look. The next morning, the news announces it. The Mappo rift vanished. It's been 29 days since the homeowner entered alone. The Hero Association was bracing for a wave, but the gate closed instead, and they're investigating. They also mentioned that an unexplained fire at a junkyard near the site broke out. People on the street say the dude must have died inside, and it serves him right for going in. Dojin listens to them yap, thinking how senseless it is to talk like that about someone who could be dead, and how if he didn't clear the rift, Seoul would be a war zone now. He looks up and wonders if he will see the tree ever again, and remembers there's something else he has to protect. He walks into the loan shark office and finds 2 guys smoking. They're saying that since Dojin's dead, the old grandma and the kid are finished too, and the boss isn't ordinary. He'll squeeze at least 10 times what he's owed. They say the old woman is whatever, but the kid's going to grow up pretty, so the boss will use her in various ways. Dojin walks in and asks where their boss is, and they go quiet. Outside, a car pulls up. Changseop comes in humming and says now that bastard's dead, he can finally sleep, then asks Iengu about the schedule. Iengu says there's a lunch with CEO Beak and nothing in the evening. Changseop tells him to call Madam Kang, say he's coming tonight, and to get the new girls ready. He walks up the stairs when he sees one of his men getting thrown past him into the wall with blood splashing. He breaks into a sweat, then he's slammed to the floor too. He looks up, Dojun's there. Dojun isn't playing and tells him to crawl like a dog from where he is and leans back with his feet on the table like he owns the place, while Changseop is shivering with fear, and Dojun asks if he went deaf. Dojun tells him to bark, saying trash like him doesn't deserve to be treated like a person. The boss gives a weak-ass bark, then starts barking loud with all of his passion, while his men have to stand there and listen. Dojun rolls his chair over and tells him to bark even louder. He says the guy acted nice when he was scared, then tried to stab him the second he saw an opening. He calls him despicable and asks if he thinks he hasn't dealt with bastards like him before. Changseop screams he'll be loyal like a dog and to spare him, so Dojun kicks him in the face, sends him flying, and blood pours. Dojun calls to Iengu. From now on, Iengu's the boss. Don't work like a dog under a bastard like that, he says. And backstabbing your higher-ups isn't a big deal for guys like them, so he tells him to go ahead. Iengu nervously says the boss has wide connections. If he suddenly becomes boss, people will think it's strange, so please spare him this once. Dojun asks why he's being annoying and says they're the ones who stuff people in drums and dump them in the sea. He knows all of it. And if they won't do it, he can throw them into a monster gate instead. The crew looks rattled while Changseop begs for his life again, bowing and yelling he'll do anything for the rest of his life. Dojun says it's cleaner to cut him off now to avoid trouble, and he wonders if he's gotten soft. He reaches out a hand. The boss brightens, apologizes, and says he'll serve him as his master. But Dojun burns his hand with fire and says this is his last chance. He burns the entire hand off and it crumbles to ash on the floor. The man screams, clutching his arm. Dojun warns that if even a small scratch shows up on his family, they're all dead, and he orders them to protect his family 24 hours a day for the rest of their lives. Officially, the news and the government, as well as the Heroes Association, registered Dojun as having vanished alongside the rift. At a McDonald's with his little sister, he figures it's better not to reveal he's back. They already treat him as a dead man, and speaking up would only cause trouble. On the upside, Changseop should find them a new place soon, so he'll take it easy and get ready to move. Yoonyoung eats and says she's happy they're moving. Dojun says that means she can go to kindergarten like other kids. She goes quiet, that one hits hard, then says she doesn't want to. Kids will make fun of her for not having a mom or dad. He tells her it's okay. She doesn't have to go, no need to deal with kids like that. They'll just go straight to school next year. She lights up and asks if she really can skip kindergarten, and he says yes, even thinking about a good private school so no one bothers her. Last night, Dojun asked if Iengu was really letting them stay at a motel. Iengu said the motel belonged to their company and it was safe, but Dojun told him to forget it and opened the door. Yoonyoung ran over and hugged him, crying, and Grandma was just relieved he was alive. He was surprised, then smiled and said he was glad to be back. Back to the present, Yoonyoung asks if he's a hero, and when he asks if she'd like that, she straight up says no. Heroes fight scary monsters and sometimes die, and she and Grandma just want him to stay with them for a long time. He starts to say something, then stops. In his head, he remembers being among the last surviving humans in his old world. After years of fighting, he'd forgotten what he'd lost, but now he has people next to him again, and it feels like he could live to protect this small bit of happiness. At the Hero Association of South Korea, the founder, Na Tae-weng, also a board member of the World Hero Federation, asks if they really don't know anything yet. A woman says nothing's confirmed and apologizes. He says it's frustrating because if a rift can close on its own, it might pop back open just as easily. She agrees and says unpredictable variables are dangerous and says it would have been better if it had caused a wave. He tells her to watch her mouth. Public safety-wise, this was the better outcome. She apologizes, quick and careful. Na Tae-weng is one of the world's 100 most respected heroes. He could win the presidency with the highest number of votes in history and even topple conglomerates if he wanted the headache, but he only cares about keeping people safe from the rift phenomenon. He tells her to take her time and investigate thoroughly. She adds that the homeowner near the rift agreed to sell, and he says to offer well above market and include condolence money for the family's loss. He checks his laptop and notices rifts appeared in other countries at the same time. This could be serious. The woman mentions China and the US have theirs under control, but the UK is the problem. Their top heroes are busy at other rifts, so in the UK there are only bums. A notification pops up and he goes, "Oh shit." She asks what's wrong, and we see there's a riftwave outbreak in the UK. Meanwhile, Dojun heads downtown to the Magic Gem shop. The delinquent at the counter greets him while having his left hand under the table, probably gooning, then realizes it's Dojun and screams, calling for the manager. A new manager reads the newspaper and asks if Dojun's the guy who made them price gouge while he was gone. Dojun says perfect. He's got a lot to sell and wants someone in charge to handle it. He drops the bag and it lands heavy, and the guy says that it's probably full of crappy, unrefined stones and says they don't do business with him. Leave. Dojun asks if he's really refusing to trade. The manager says a 1% commission is a huge loss for them, and he won't deal with Dojun again, so take the stuff and go. Dojun laughs and says he'll regret it. The manager scoffs about how the other shop's prices make sense because of the distribution chain, then says there's no point explaining it to someone uneducated, and tells him to get out for good. Dojun kicks the bag and the stones pour out. The delinquent and the manager freeze. One of them is a hero-tier magic stone, and the market hasn't even set a price yet. It is basically owner's choice. Dojun says if they don't want it, forget it. The context for the hero stone is that in Mexico, the drug lord Kurzaman was breaking down magic stones to make drugs when one exploded and awakened him as a hero, best lab accident in history. That type of stone became famous for triggering hero awakenings and boosting magic, which is why people call it a hero magic stone, an ultra-luxury item. The two can't believe what they're seeing, and Dojun tells them to put the stones back in his bag as he gets ready to leave. The manager suddenly says he didn't know Dojun was chill like that and asks Dojun to wait, hands him a coffee like a peace offering. While the delinquent wipes down the gems carefully, the manager says the commission is way too low. Dojun tells him if he doesn't like it, forget it. The manager tells him that's not what he meant, he is just curious. Dojun says it's because he's annoyed, and the manager bows his head immediately and apologizes. Dojun adds he is sick of apologies and tells him to just say if they're matching his rate or not, and the clerk mutters that Dojun's rotten and rude. Fine, the manager says, then starts yapping a whole paragraph, but Dojun ain't listening to all that and cuts him off. He doesn't want to hear it, and if the guy doesn't like it, he's leaving. The manager still tries and asks for 9% because they're taking a big loss. Dojun says, then don't take it. The manager starts pleading and keeps dropping the number. The haggling drags on so long the clerk basically zones out as it goes on. Finally, the manager drops to his knees. Dojun says he'll be generous and put it back to 1%. The manager agrees while internally exploding, and Dojun casually flexes that he's got about 7 more bags like this. Both of their jaws drop in synchronization, and the manager tells the clerk to grab the contract right now. Dojun checks his balance and says at this rate that 110 billion won house isn't out of reach, but Gates alone won't get him high-grade magic stones. If only he could roam rift zones freely for a while. Both their phones start blaring. The manager wonders if a wave broke out, and Dojun pulls up the news and sees the UK just had a rift break. As Dojun reads the news, he calls them pathetic, those without any power. He used to rush into any rift anywhere, no matter the country or the association, but he's not living like that anymore. Cut to a family dinner. He brought them out for good meat in a nice restaurant. Grandma whispers it's too expensive and not a big deal if they skip it, maybe it's a bit much. Dojun tells her he made a lot of money this time and to eat as much as they want. Yoonyoung tries a bite, her eyes light up and she says it's fire. Grandma still looks uneasy, so Dojun doubles down and basically orders everything. She asks how they're supposed to eat all of that. He says to eat to their heart's content and make sure she's full. Yoonyoung offers her a piece and says it's amazing. Grandma takes a bite, brightens up, and agrees as they continue eating. A familiar face walks in, it's Hyun Juyeon. She calls out to Dojun and asks for a word, so he turns around and she says she knows he's a hero. He's not simping and asks if she can't tell he is eating with his family and tells her to come back after he's done eating. She pauses, wondering if he even knows who she is, then moves to the waiting area, wondering what kind of a man this is. People start whispering she's a global superstar and an S-rank hero. They say she definitely belongs in a top 10 most beautiful heroes Reddit tier list and wonder who she's waiting for, while she can't get over what kind of a guy he is to make her wait. Sitting there, she thinks back. 2 months ago, he came back alive from a gate. People thought he awakened then. He was even reported dead in a recent rift, yet here he is. One look and a few words from him low-key made her tense up. Hitting S-rank in under 2 months is unheard of. An oil tycoon blew years on mana stones and still needed 5 years after awakening to reach S-rank. There's no way he's already S-rank, so he must have something unique. The chairs scrape back, Dojun's family is getting up to leave. Juyeon walks over, but someone else steps in first. Dojun looks up, surprised, as a man says he thought he was seeing things but he wasn't. How did Dojun crawl out of that gate? It's Kang Chulwoo, the guy who we have heard so much about. He says that he knew Dojun was a pest, but turns out he's a cockroach. Juyeon can't believe Chulwoo of all people showed up. He gets right in Dojun's face. Dojun brushes him aside and asks Juyeon if she had business with him. No time for his drama. Chulwoo turns, wondering what this is, then freezes when he sees her. Dojun tells Juyeon he'll hear her out, so do him a favor. She asks what kind of favor, and he asks her to grab a taxi for his family. He tells her they'll talk later. He's got business here and a debt to collect right now, and Chulwoo starts grinning at him with a hyena smirk. Outside, Juyeon tells her family not to worry about Dojun and to head back. She waves at Yoonyoung, calling her cute, and they leave. Inside, a loud slap shakes the room that even makes heads turn. Cholwoo just got smacked, turns, and asks if Dojun wants to die. The waitress tells them not to fight in here, but Cholwoo swings at her and tells her to get lost. She falls, the whole place starts yelling for him to get out, and he shouts back, asking if they all want to die. Dojun steps in and nails him in the face. Cholwoo gets his head smashed in. He grits his teeth, about to pass out, then drops to his knees. Dojun calls him out. He asks him if he is the guy that got him locked in that gate to die, right? They have a lot to talk about, but Cholwoo just says he has nothing to say to a bastard whose father ditched him, and that there's a reason Dojun's stepmother asked him to do the job. Our boy just pulls out his phone, hits record, and tells him to say that again. Cholwoo laughs and tells him to shut up. What would he need to say, he asks, as he lights up his hand and sends a flaming punch. He tells Dojun that his real mother is a hoe and tells him to just die. Dojun watches the swing, puts a hand out, and the hit gets deflected. Cholwoo flies backward, wondering how his fist just bounced off. Dojun keeps the pressure on, slams him again, then follows up and just beats him down. The waitress panics, trying to remember the number for the police, but Juyeon takes her phone and says she'll handle it. The waitress thanks her. Watching the beatdown, Juyeon says Cholwoo's a B-rank hero, just like Dojun. She can't believe it. If he's getting handled like this, Dojun must at least be A-rank, and even then this is way too one-sided. Could it be that he even surpasses an A-rank? She yells that Dojun's going to kill him at this rate. Dojun looks down, realizes she's right, lets Cholwoo drop and turns to Juyeon. She asks how much he knows about Cholwoo. He says he knows everything that matters. Why? She says Cholwoo's cousin is the S-rank Kang Yeonpyo. Dojun says he knows and asks why that's a problem. She's surprised he already knew and thinks our guy is way too reckless and says Yeonpyo is the only reason Cholwoo gets away with everything, so what Dojun just did is dangerous. She roughly understands the grudge between them, but if he thinks Yeonpyo will let this slide, he's wrong. Dojun laughs. She asks if he's really not scared. He says not really. What bothers him is how well she seems to know him, and they stare each other down. The waitress is crying. She thought Juyeon was supposed to handle this. Juyeon apologizes for dropping in and says she's here as a favor from her uncle. He owns the shop called Gas and Stone Man, where Dojun's been selling his mana crystals, and she wants to buy them instead. Dojun asks how much. She says all of it. He laughs that it's a lot, and she says an S-rank's assets are beyond imagination. Dojun says he's fine selling, but only if she agrees to one condition. With a sinister look, he says it's nothing big, something she can do. Cut to Dojun's stepmother smashing a bottle and saying she thought he was dead. She was told he went into a rift and wasn't supposed to come back. She throws another bottle at her bodyguard, but her aim is trash. He apologizes, saying even the Hero Association believed he was dead. She tells him to stop making excuses and asks what he's going to do about it. He says there's something more urgent. Dojun defeated Cholwoo. She wonders if Dojun went after him because maybe Dojun knows something. She starts sweating, saying it'll be a problem if her husband or her father hears, but she can smooth it over. Still, if the media finds out, the group stock could drop, so she has to shut it down. She orders him to keep the outlets in line. If anyone runs a story, pull their ads and cut ties. He says he's already shut up both the police and the press. She lets out a sigh and says good work, but he says this isn't a real solution. He whispers that Cholwoo's cousin is Yeonpyo. She asks the S-rank hero. Cholwoo was notorious among heroes as trash. Publicly, Yeonpyo acted like a caring cousin, but in reality, Cholwoo just did his dirty work and did as he was told for Yeonpyo. She says they should meet Yeonpyo first and set it up right away. She also realizes this means Changseop betrayed them. Manager Lee confirms it, saying Changseop is reportedly caring for Dojun's family. She tells him to call Prosecutor Park now. Changseop needs to pay for trying to ditch her for Dojun's side. Meanwhile, outside a gate, we hear there are 37 rift zones in South Korea. 5 are in the process of turning into gates, and the rest can only be hunted by association-affiliated heroes on scheduled runs. They confirm Juyeon's ID and wish her a safe trip. As she heads in, Dojun is with her and points out there's only one entrance. Moreover, the guards are strict even though they know it's her. One of her raiders says it's unusual for her to push a rift zone hunt first. It is Jeong In-ju, an A-rank and the guild master of the Cleomi Guild. Juyeon comes up with an excuse, saying she just wanted to do it for fun, then glances back and spots Dojun. His condition was simple. If she lets him into a rift zone, he'll sell her all his magic crystals at market price. She asked why, and he told her he'd make more hunting anyway. She wonders if he's really risking this much just for money, saying he's not in his right mind. But it's not like she cares, and even without her uncle's request, she needed crystals anyway, so it works for her. Outside the tunnel past the rift, In-ju blushes and asks Juyeon who that guy really is. Juyeon, a bit annoyed, says he's just someone she knows. In-ju doesn't buy it and asks if he's her boyfriend. Juyeon says no, she owes him a favor and brought him to pay it back, which surprises In-ju, asking how an S-rank can even owe someone. The air suddenly feels tense. Everyone notices, even Dojun, and they snap into formation as a huge chicken dives in overhead. In-ju yells it's a cockatrice, and Juyeon quickly tells everyone how to defend. As Dojun sprints past her, launching himself straight at the chicken without caring about the plan. She shouts his name. The team stares as he packs aura into his fist, going for the first strike. He activates his fire power and slams it into the cockatrice's face. The hit goes off and the monster smashes into the ground. He lands in front of it, there's a deep fist dent, and the cockatrice lies still. The team gasps, including Juyeon, wondering if it died in one hit. Dojun says not yet, lifts his foot and says it will when he does this, then stomps the life out of it. Inju asks who the hell he is. Juyeon tells her, just a strong dude. Inju asks her if she is serious, does she even know how few heroes can drop a cockatrice in one blow? Juyeon tries to play it off, saying if it's just knocking them down, even her sister can do it. Inju is still tweaking, asking her if they were even watching the same thing. She saw it, and it was mid-air, one straight punch, and it couldn't even dodge. Juyeon is trying to figure out what he is now and what happened to him in the rift. She says they need to change the plan and she's heading to the center for a bit. She walks up to Dojun and he says he's not sharing his loot with anyone who didn't help. She says she wasn't planning to ask for that, but rather that his skills don't match this place. Does he want to go deeper? And of course he does. He smiles and says that sounds fun. She tells him she knows the area she'll lead and he should stick close if he doesn't want to get lost. She takes off first, probably testing his pace. He crouches, then rockets after her so fast the rest of the group almost stumbles. Inju watches and goes, if Juyeon is a bullet, this guy must be light. One of her guildmates asks why they're not heading in too. She asks if he really thinks they can keep up. He's like, hell no, so she says exactly, we're extras today. Just hunt like usual, we'll hang by the entrance. She walks over to the cockatrice corpse and says A ranks get praised, but in front of S ranks they're nothing, then wonders how strong Dojun actually is. Back in the forest, Juyeon runs and glances back, saying she should probably slow down. Dojun is right behind her, asking if she can go any faster, which makes her yelp and stumble. She's top 2 in Korea for speed, and he still caught her. What is going on? Dojun stops and jogs backward to her, saying she's slower than he thought and it felt like she was trying to shake him. She blushes, asks why he thinks that while gasping for air, and he looks up, spots a mountain and asks what that is. She says that's where the Rift Zone's boss is. He asks what she means and she explains. Cassirian, a 20-meter beast that looks like a wyvern. Don't even think about fighting it. They'd need at least 3 S-rank heroes to bring it down. He asks if it drops the Sang Sang grade mana crystal. She says it does. It is an imaginary grade just below the highest grade, and she asks if he's even listening. She calls him a maniac and asks if he is seriously thinking about taking it down, and he just sprints off, while she can't believe it and goes after him, yelling for him to wait, but he's already headed straight for the boss. A little later, Juyeon arrives and just stares. The Cassirian is lying dead in front of her, and she asks what the hell is going on. Dojun pulls a knife to extract the stone, and she goes over it being an extremely powerful boss. Even Park Heel, an S-rank known for hunting one, tried his first Cassirian with 30 A ranks. Everyone died but him, and he barely made it out, basically a nightmare run. He returned with another S-rank and 200 A ranks. They hurled spears to pin its wings. Heel led the charge, the beast roared and threw most of them off. They finally killed it, but most of the heroes died, and his mega guild, Sweet Life, still hasn't recovered 3 years later. Dojun glances at her and says she didn't help, so she doesn't get a cut of his stone. She wouldn't have believed it if she hadn't seen it herself, that this guy dropped the infamous Cassirian in a single strike. He lifts out the mana stone and says he doesn't need a guide anymore, he'll handle it from here. She asks if he's really leaving the Cassirian's byproducts. Besides the stone, the feathers and claws are academically valuable. He says they're not worth his time, it's more efficient to go get more stones, and tells her to take them as a guide fee. She looks at the bird and says she doesn't need them either, trying to keep some of her reputation. Back at the entrance, bags are piled up and everyone's staring at them stuffed to the brim. A guildmate says that guy borrowed a giant backpack and it came back completely full. Can you believe it? Their whole guild would need at least 20 hours of non-stop hunting to match that. With what's inside, more like 3 full days. They wonder who he really is. Even ignoring the speed and the quantity, if Juyeon is right and he soloed a Cassirian without special gear or a suit, he's the strongest hero in Korea, maybe the world. She looks back uneasy as Dojun strolls in carrying a couple more bags. Even if they told people about this day, no one would believe them, but just to be clear, don't mention any of this anywhere. They laugh nervously while Juyeon walks over and starts talking to Dojun. The others think they're totally flirting and joke that they should have known when she brought a random guy here, and that he must be good looking to not look plain next to her, and that they look like a handsome couple. Wait, Inju can tell it's not right to call it flirting, though he's being pretty rough with her, which she never thought anyone would do to Juyeon. He drops a heavy bag into her hands and heads out without even saying goodbye, which surprises Inju. Inju asks if he really left all these backpacks behind, and Juyeon says yeah. She told him if people found out he beat a Cassirian, he'd be famous overnight, but he just told her he hated attention and told her to handle it. Inju's like, what kind of guy does that? And even Juyeon is thinking the same. and we see her rizzed up by his tremendous aura. We cut to the city, in a martial arts gym where Park Hye-il is pounding a sandbag, giving it his best effort as he drives in hit after hit. Hye-il is an S-rank hero with the Korean Hero Association and the leader of Sweet Life. Some guy in a suit walks up and tells him to chill, saying he looks like hell. And as they say, the frog that's been crouching long will leap far, he says, so the longer he'll endure the hardship, the greater the reputation will be. Hye-il says that's right, he'll make everyone who looked down on him pay by beating them up. The man tells him his power's been building and it'll blow someday. When it does, people will kneel before him. Besides, no one knows how to beat Caesarea better than Hye-il. One day he'll go down as the guy who took it out with the smallest team. Hye-il laughs and self-glazes. He really is the one who knows best, he says. He glances at an old group photo, remembers how much weaker the guild is than 3 years ago, but says he's still the only one who can bring down that giant monster bird, and his underling agrees. Elsewhere, files and photos about Dojin are laid out. S-rank hero Kang Youngpyo, Chulwoo's cousin, looks over the papers and asks if he is the guy they are looking for. His guy confirms it and explains how Chulwoo tried to get rid of Dojin by sending him into a rift a few months back, but Dojin awakened in there. The client was Hong Hee-ju, executive director of T Group and the second daughter of W Group. Youngpyo asks why someone that rich cares about a nobody. He explains Dojin is an illegitimate child of T Group, taken in at 7, then kicked after Hong Hee-ju had her own kid. Youngpyo says, smirking, that family doesn't even matter in the rich people's world, and as he gets up, asks how much money Chulwoo took. His advisor says 3 billion won, and Youngpyo says that's too little. He heard Chulwoo ended up a mess, burned all over, blind in both eyes, barely alive. Youngpyo says whoever did that to him was ruthless. If it were him, he'd have chopped him to pieces and crushed the skull. His advisor adds there's a rumor that Juyeon helped Dojin during that incident. Kang freaks out, demanding to know why she'd help him and what their relationship is. Bro is jealous. The guy says he's not sure, but says her statement to the police shut the case down quietly. Youngpyo yells at him to find out now. If it's not romantic, there was a deal, so the advisor panics and runs out, telling him he'll find out. Youngpyo grips his club, bending it in half, then slams it to the floor. He figures Heeju's people will come to him next to finish what Chulwoo couldn't, but actually he doesn't mind, and the guy makes a creepy face, thinking she's loaded with cash, so he will be paid plenty. Meanwhile, Dojin walks alone at night toward his new place. As expected, hunting in rifts pays better than gates, but for now he'll need Juyeon's help to get in and out, and he thinks about how to cut that dependency. Back then, Juyeon told him if she sells the Caesarian magic stones now, people will find out who really killed it and question her skills, and the media will bother them non-stop, so she'd rather keep it hidden and she'll hold on to them for now. And that was when Dojin dropped his huge sack onto her hands. Right now, he needs another way into rift zones without relying on her. He arrives at the new place Changseob set up for him to rest. The second he steps in, something feels off. He checks the shoes at the door and knows strangers are inside. He opens the door and there they are. His little sister spots him and runs over, yelling for him, while the group of men in black suits stare him down. Dojin asks who they are and why they're here. The man introduces himself as Prosecutor Park from the Seoul District Prosecutor's office and asks if Dojin knows someone named Hwang Changseob. Dojin stays quiet while his sister holds on tight. Park announces Dojin is under arrest for participation in HC Capital's illegal high-interest lending, run by Hwang Changseob. At the prosecution service, Dojin sits alone in an interrogation room as he notices Park walking in mid-call, telling the person on the call that Dojin and Changseob both behaved compliant and asks for his regards to be sent to Director Hong. Then he focuses on Dojin. The reason he became a prosecutor is to wipe scum like him off the streets, he says. Then a stack of files is slammed on the table, and he tells Dojin the charges listed against him alone would get you rotten in prison for 10 years, and thanks to Hwang Changseop's testimony, they already have enough to prove them. Dojin just stares at him, hitting the mute button. Park yells at him, asking if Dojin really thinks he is lying. Dojin cuts him off. Hong Hee-ju, it's her, isn't it? Park freezes, then plays dumb. Who? Hong Hee-ju? Dojin goes quiet again. It's clear Changseop's side has already been crushed. He kept quiet to keep things from escalating, but not anymore. Park gets in his face and says that Korean prosecutors are no joke and Dojin's life is over, while Dojin thinks how this bastard is done, and something in Dojin's eyes makes Park flinch. He stumbles back, sweating. He curses, about to slap him across the face, but the door opens and another officer asks him to step outside. In the hall, Park grabs a report, asking if the device is broken. The officer says it's fine. The awakening scanner shows Dojin is a civilian. Park can't accept it, and the officer tells him he isn't sure why the result is like that either. Intel from T Group said otherwise, and the guy even knows the name Hong Hee-ju. Who the hell is he? Back in the room, Dojin sits with his hands bound, and he now knows why people call Korean prosecutors mad dogs. Dojin considers just destroying the place and going somewhere else with his grandma and Yoonyoung when the door opens again. Juyeon walks in and asks what he's doing here. He says he doesn't know either, and she tells him not to do anything reckless. If he uses his powers now, it'll screw him over later. He looks up and asks if she's here to help. She says not exactly, but now that she knows he's innocent, it changes things. If someone's framing an innocent person, someone has to fix it. He gives a faint smile and she leans in to whisper. The Hero Association is launching an investigation. They're cracking down on illegal hero licenses and watching new rifts around Mappo. He interrupts her and asks if his family is well. She freezes, then shrugs it off. What am I, your secretary? Why would I be looking after your family? But his stare makes her waver. She looks away and says they're safe, so he should stop worrying. He thanks her and says he'll repay the favor. She blushes, tells him to be patient, and promises to solve it as soon as possible. A while later, Juyeon's method was to not prove his innocence. She exposed Prosecutor Park for bribery and other illegal requests, and he was fired. A public investigation officially cleared Dojun of the original incident, and though he still gets in trouble for having used an illegal Awakena license, Juyeon fought it down to just probation. As they drive, an emergency broadcast flashes. A never-before-seen monster appeared in the UK, about 15 meters tall with extremely potent venom. Dojun keeps looking out the window and says, "It's a Makhashin." Juyeon asks how he knows that. That is a new monster and is supposed to be confidential association knowledge. Monster names aren't random, he says. Mana stones hold both energy and the monster's unique encrypted data, and if you decode it, you get a monster's real name and other information tied to it. In this world, they decrypt it with the power of science, but in his original world, they did it through magical power, and he already knows most of their names since the same monsters appear in both worlds. He adds that Makhashins are easy to neutralize with red flower ant extract. Juyeon asks what that is. He explains it's harmless to humans but paralyzes Makhashins, spray them and they won't be able to move. She takes it in then asks, "So, Dojun, what exactly are you?" Our bro doesn't answer and he keeps staring at the road. She asks if he's even listening. He then asks what would happen if he killed Hong Heeju right now. At the association office in AKO, Heeju sits behind her desk, biting her nails, while manager Lee stands nearby after explaining Dojun's current situation. She continues chewing, anxious and confused about Juyeon helping Dojun. He admits they don't know the connection or how she even knows Dojun, and her face darkens as she snaps off her nail. She's furious. What the hell is going on, she asks. And the meaning behind Dojun not being a hero she thought he awakened. Manager Lee rubs the back of his bald head and says he doesn't know either. It might have tricked the detectors, but it's only a guess. Heeju slams the desk and orders him immediately to get Yeonpyo on board. She offers him 20 billion, no, 30. She doesn't care how much, just make him take the job. Elsewhere, Yeonpyo hears the number and scoffs that 30 billion isn't enough. He needs at least double. His assistant asks if that isn't too much, but Yeonpyo waves him off and says from Heeju's point of view he's her best bet. If he pulls this off, 60 billion is nothing for her. He adds not to forget he even has Hyun Juyeon on his side. If they're up against an S rank, that's the least you should pay. The assistant mutters that Juyeon definitely is dangerous. Yeonpyo slams his foot on the table, walks up and calls him a bastard. Not all S ranks are the same. He can take her down in 20 minutes. The assistant, shivering, tells him of course he can, and Yeonpyo's mood flips as he asks for updates from the association. The assistant says the UK branch can't send more reinforcements, and the association just tightened the rules for overseas deployments to only skilled heroes. Yeonpyo walks off and curses. They make it impossible to back out without looking weak, then asks for his schedule. He's leaving in 3 days, which fits him perfectly since he wanted to see Takashi anyways. He looks out over the city and wonders about Makhashins, the new monster type with no known weaknesses. If he figures it out first, his value will shoot up and he laughs at the thought. Meanwhile, in England, the Big Ben catches strays, and the streets erupt in chaos as a monster charges through. Heroes step in to block it, weapons up. The beast roars and slams its claws down, cracking the ground, and the team spreads out, dodging the shockwave and counterattacking. Mages fire violet blasts, and with one clean hit the head comes off, the body crashes to the pavement. And they catch their breath when one of them hears something and looks up, lightning flashes and more monsters show up. A claw drops from above before he can move, and that's how a night of terror starts across the UK. In the days after, waves of monsters hit the city. Britain's heroes fight hard, but they're helpless against an unknown enemy as they push toward London with only 60 kilometers left. Then suddenly some glitter falls from the sky. The monsters are confused. Their glowing eyes dampen as they freeze. They scream out and collapse one after another. Helicopters fly overhead as everyone inside stares down at the battlefield. "My God, it's working," someone says, and Juyeon realizes Dojun was right. The red flower ant and its extract work. Yeonpyo looks over at her and thinks, there's no way she's that good, but Juyeon just smiles and tells her team to finish the job, and they eagerly agree. She draws her sword and jumps out into the fight alongside the others. Later, outside the airport, a wall of reporters is waiting. They call their strategy amazing, and rumor that it was Juyeon's idea spreads. People even say that the British royal family bestowed knighthood on her. Then one of the reporter's eyes go wide. Juyeon appears with her suitcase. The crowd bombards her with questions and pictures, asking how she found the Makashin's weakness and saved the country. Yeonpyo smiles and is asked to share his thoughts too while their faces are on giant screens across the city. The news says a 200-person team, including hero Juyeon, returned safely and that South Korea's pride saved the United Kingdom. They announce the red flower ant and its extract are how you hunt Makashins. Meanwhile, in a crowd, Dojun watches the broadcast too, when Yeonpyo's interview fills the frame and Dojun's gaze goes cold. Cut to a fancy dining room with gift boxes on the table. "A gift for you," Juyeon says. Dojun pauses and asks what for. She tells him one is for Yoonyoung and Grandma and the other one is for him. He immediately grabs it and she crosses her arms, telling him it shouldn't be opened here but to take it home. He ignores that, pulls out neatly folded clothes and says it looks expensive. Juyeon raises her glass and tells him to take it as thanks. Because of him, she was recognized as a hero. Compared to what he's done for her, this is nothing. If he needs it, she'll even buy him a car. Dojun sets the bag back down and says, "If I ever need anything, I'll let you know, but I've already been repaid." Her smile drops. "If I asked how you knew the Makashin's weakness, would you tell me?" And he just goes, "Is there any reason I should answer that?" She scoffs and asks what his plans are from here. She is already worried he might be aiming at Hong Hee-ju or Yeonpyo and she wants to stop him. Dojun just tells her, first, probably buy a house. Yeonpyo stares and asks him if he is renting the one he currently lives in. That night at a luxury beach resort, the huzz is having a good time while Yeonpyo's got that death stare in his eyes. His mind is back in England and he can't get over how Juyeon behaved. "She's completely different now," he mutters. She figured out the monster's weakness, but it seemed like she was hiding how she learned it. A few days earlier on a private jet, Yeonpyo asked her about Gajun and if he took down a prosecutor by smashing his head while Cheolwoo was there. Juyeon, sounding annoyed, told him that Cheolwoo was the one who started it. He tried to kill someone in a gate and failed. Yeonpyo let out a bitter laugh, called Cheolwoo an idiot blinded by pocket change. Then he leans in, telling her, "He's still my cousin, which means I've got every reason to handle Dojun myself." Yeonpyo stared at him and then turned away. "Do whatever you want." "It's none of my business," she said, while Yeonpyo studied her, wondering if their relationship wasn't that serious after all, and she added that there was no need for her to interfere. He's not buying it and is convinced there's something going on between her and Dojun while he takes a slow sip of wine. Cut to England. One of the zones that were wrecked after the recent wave, the UK Hero Association has people sweeping the area, trying to grab as many mana stones as they can before the second wave. A hero sighs that if they had red flower ant extract, even D-rank guys like them could have taken down a Makashin. His partner nods. If the first wave had been stopped, this place would be a gold mine, but once an area gets hit by a wave, it can't be used as a gate anymore. A faint sound makes one glance back. He says he just got a weird feeling in his balls like someone walked out. The other tells him that the strike team's only been in there 5 hours. Mana crystal thieves will show sooner or later, but for now just stay alert and keep watch. The portal suddenly cracks with odd lightning. They turn their heads and a man in black armor steps out who looks a lot like someone we already know. "He's not one of ours," one guard says. "Not a hero, not even a hunter." He tells his buddy to call HQ. Before they can move, the man raises his hand and green rings of light blast out, pinning both guards into the air. One of them flings 3 daggers and yells for him to die, but the rings of light bat the blades away. The man calls the attack pathetic. He clenches his fist, twisting their arms around and crushing them with invisible pressure. The man raises his hand and opens up a rift, which summons a phone where a percentage is displayed. "It's already been 10 years and you still haven't even reached 20%, he asks, and wonders if it failed even after he triggered his dimensional rift. For now, he decides to increase his mana first. One guard, barely conscious, asks who he is. The man just ignores him and rips his limbs off, then decides he'll start by wiping out the weak bugs. In Paju, South Korea, Dojun strolls across the grass, calm and unhurried, until a strange noise makes him stop. The ground erupts, and worm-like beasts with saw-toothed mouths burst out and surround him. Dojun crouches by a hole, sets his palm to the ground, and counts the amount of monsters, 26 within 100 meters. He smiles, and a bright sphere of energy flares in his hand. He wonders how many will survive as he tosses the fireball into the hole. The ground goes quiet. Then a chain of blasts rips through the tunnels as the worms are blown out of their homes. Watching them fall, he smirks, like he's not about to be covered in worm juice. At the Hero Association HQ, a man asks what kind of a person they are dealing with. Min Honggi says the guy is a young man who is hard to deal with, and they received confirmation that he indeed is a hero. Chairman Tiweng asks if the hero measuring device didn't say he was unmeasurable, and Honggi tells him they never received an answer about that. Vice Chairman Park Sungchul hates that. He calls Dojun arrogant brat. When the association asks questions he should answer, Tiweng lifts a finger. "There's one more thing." "What else do we know?" Honggi says not much, except that it all started because of a malicious plan by Kang Chulwoo. Dojun keeps cutting down the worm monsters. Hongi runs through his record. He survived a near-fatal gate incident, took brutal revenge on Chulwu, and cleared the new rift in Mappo by himself. Dojun keeps fighting and uses his firepower to drill a hole through one of the creatures. The only thing certain about Dojun is that his strength is beyond anything they've handled, Hongi explains. So he's untamable, but the real deal. That's what you're saying, Hongi nods. There's more. He applied for hero certification. Dojun said he had a guarantor and told them to skip the procedures. Tiweng asks if the guarantor was from inside the association. Hongi nods again. An S-rank, he named Han Juyan. The room goes quiet. Dojun is finally done with the worms and looks at his new hero ID. He is Korea's 8th S-rank. Thanks to that, he can hunt as much as he wants in the rift zones. Tiweng bursts out laughing. He was informed Dojun got his license and went straight to the Paju rift zone. He calls him amazing. Hongi says he certainly is, then Sungchul interrupts, asking if he went alone without backup or a guild into a level 2 rift. Tiweng and Hongi remain unfazed. Sungchul leans in again, fired up. He suggests that if that Dojun kid comes out alive, they should announce his identity and promote him. He's Korea's 8th S-rank after all. Hongi shuts the idea down. We can't assume he wants that, he says. They should ask his opinion first. Sungchul shoots back. The world's unstable news of another S-rank would give people hope. He asks the chairman if he doesn't think so too. Tiweng thinks for a moment, then sets a palm on the table and gets up. He decides to meet him in person, face to face. Cut to Dojun. The guy found even more worms and drives his foot into one of them. It looks like he wants to do this all day. More monsters pour in, trying to surround him. Dojun glances right as one moves to flank and his hand lights up with a hot flame. He surges forward and swings 360 degrees around himself, which cuts all creatures surrounding him down at once. As he lands, the worms fall one by one until they all lie lifeless on the ground. His palms still glow as he flicks out the fire and mutters that the mana consumption isn't as small as expected. Cut to the Gassen Hero complex. A young guy is brain rotting on his phone behind the counter when Dojun walks in. Without looking up, the guy asks him for the name of the person who made the reservation. Dojun drops a bag on the counter and says he wants to see if it can be forged into a weapon. The guy tells him reservations only, try somewhere else. Dojun points out they were just on the phone and that he told him there were lots of reservations free, but the guy snaps that they're fully booked and the local craftsmen are all top tier. Dojun grabs him by the collar. The guy yells, asking if he's crazy, and Dojun asks if he's the owner. "I'm his son," he shouts. "Then get your father. I came here because I heard this place is the best," Dojun says. Flustered, the kid retreats and calls for his dad. Choi Chiolquin, the famed weapon craftsman, comes out and eyes Dojun, asking who introduced him to this place. "Hyun Juyan," Dojun says. Their eyes go wide and Chiolquin asks if he is serious. Dojun pulls something out of his bag and the man immediately recognizes it. His son asks what that is, and the father tells him it is the tip of the giant black killer fang. It has been a long time since he last saw it. Dojun says he wants a sleek sword and to make it as long as possible. The old man tells him he doesn't know anything. Stretching non-metallic items like this ruins durability. He'll make 2 medium blades instead. Dojun asks if he's not skilled enough and tells him to connect them into one blade. He needs a long one, and to increase its mana absorption as much as possible. The son explodes, saying his father's weapons are at least grade 3 in mana absorption. Dojun, a man of few words, just picks up one of their swords, says it feels like grade 5, and squeezes it hard, which makes the entire room light up. They stare, amazed, and Dojun shatters the blade into pieces and they can't believe it. Dojun tells them if they are going to create garbage like that, they'd better stop now. Chiolquin gives a sober stare, now taking him seriously. The next day, in a quiet jungle forest, a huge monster jolts awake. Its eyes glare red and it roars. Dojun steps out and calls it noisy, then charges his hand with fire. The beast stomps into Dojun, who dodges, shoots into the air and dives back down, slicing right through the monster's shoulder. It gets angrier and grabs a whole tree and throws it at Dojun, but that doesn't stop him. He goes in to finish the monster, flashes past it and cuts the monster down. However, it regenerates instantly, looking even stronger as it stares at him, but Dojun keeps pressing. He goes in again and aims his fire attack right at the monster's spine, and now it is left completely engulfed in fire. He flashes around it and slices its head off and finally defeats it. It's hard to keep a mana sword going for such a long time, he says, but because of that, he pulls out a jar to collect the Cyclops' blood. Later, at the shop from earlier, Dojun sets the Cyclops smoothie on the counter. The son stares and asks what it is. Dojun just tells him to call for his father. With this, he'll be able to fuse 2 black killer fangs easily, Dojun says while turning to leave. The clerk calls out to him, demanding to at least know where this came from, but Dojun keeps walking. He's got the essential materials, but he still needs one more thing to push mana absorption higher, and there is only one place on Earth where he can get it. Cut to a resort. Juyan's phone rings and it is Dojun calling. She answers, asking what it is, and he says one word, Brazil, and her relaxed mood disappears. By the pool, Juyan asks Inju if the association sent a hero to Brazil. Inju confirms it. Brazil's government and the association teamed up, and they're launching a huge operation to shut down the rift zone. Monsters in Brazil are particularly brutal and they drop a ton of mana stones. The association's paying well, so their guild decided to join. Inju smirks at Juyeon and says they should go together and bring that man, the 8th S-class, the one everyone's been talking about. It is him, isn't it? Juyeon says she isn't sure and Inju teases her, saying there are rumors about her and that guy having a special relationship. Flustered, Juyeon yells, "Fine, go if you want." Inju cheers, but she says whether the guy will come or not, she really doesn't know. Back at the forge, the smith marvels at a strange composite. Non-metal materials fuse cleanly with Cyclops' blood as a binder, and the old man asks how in the world he found out about that. The man tells our boy he can probably make it around 180 centimeters. Dojun then politely asks for it to have a two-handed shape, but with a grip so he can use it one-handed. The blacksmith wonders why he is suddenly polite. He thought Dojun was a thug, but either he knows basic manners or this sword really is precious to him. Dojun asks how long it will take, and the man says at least a month. Dojun wonders if grade 7 can handle his full power, then tells the smith to shape the form for now, and he will need to collect one more special material. The smith can't help wondering if Dojun is about to try and get that material. A few days later, at a parking lot, a luxury car rolls up. Dojun thanks her for it and says he'll use it well. Juyeon steps out and says it's nothing. He eyes the car. It's worth 100 million won, which is appropriate for him, he says. She asks if something's up with the association, and he tells her that they're revealing his identity, so he told them to pay the price. She mutters that Chairman Tiwang always deals fairly. Dojun just says the chairman understood, the deal's done, and gets in. She sighs, asking him to act more appropriately and to remember she's his guarantor for his employee status. She gets in the passenger seat and says the association's in chaos. The Brazil stronghold collapsed. Once things calm down, they'll resume talks with the chairman. Brazil, he repeats, then asks if she is going too. She pauses for a moment, then nods and wonders why he is asking. He turns toward her and asks her out to go with him, and her face turns pink. Across the city, Hiju's face turns a similar color, but not for the same reason. "How much more do you want?" she screams. Yeonpyo leans back. "Now's not the time to be cheap, director," she tells him. "We already paid you 30 billion won up front and you're asking for more. When are you actually going to do anything?" Yeonpyo just smirks and asks who else would have taken that job. He leans in and says her intel is old, so he'll toss her a freebie. Dojun is S-rank now, Korea's 8th. Hiju goes pale and asks if he is trying to fool her. Yeonpyo tells her to wait if she doesn't believe him. The news will break soon and the info wasn't cheap. He paid for it. She tells him to wait and shouts that if that's true, she can't control him anymore, slamming the table and offering more money. Just do something. Yeonpyo says money matters, but a steady business partnership is worth more. Hiju is desperate and tells him to just do whatever it takes. A notification pops up on his phone. He looks at it and says the heavens are on her side today. When she asks what he means, he grins. There's a perfect chance to kill Dojun coming their way. The next day, on the flight with 5 S-ranks aboard, comments on social media hype the Brazil operation, saying it will be over in seconds. Among them is Jang Seongho, who once carried his group to first place alone, Park Hyo, who people believe to just be in there for money since his guild crumbled, Hyeon Juyeon, who people call damn sexy, as well as Kang Yeonpyo, also just there for money. And lastly, Dojun eating noodles while people argue about his skills, wondering who that guy even is. With that, the airline announces they're about to land in Brazil. Cut to Sao Paulo, the Brazilian Hero Association. In the control room, one confirms the Korean team just landed, some even skipping the hotel to head straight for a rift. They were the fastest to respond, as expected from a nation like Korea. But they wonder, what if the Koreans figure it out? There are no everlasting secrets, just keep a lid on it until the operation ends. The reason for the panic. Brazil's national treasure, Hero Moraes, was killed by something unknown, no monster but something humanoid. The black box footage is clear. It happened near the Santarém Rift, and nobody actually knows what went down there. Elsewhere in a dim briefing room, Juyeon asks where Dojun is. The reply, he's still on the plane. She's confused, they all got off together, so why didn't he? But Dojun just says his destination was further and he is headed for Santarém. Juyeon stares, suspecting he is really about to go to the most dangerous rift alone. At the briefing, an associate runs through the plan, 2 days to adapt locally, then each team deploys to their requested rifts. Juyeon leaves the hotel and hops in a taxi, but Yeonpyo catches the door and reminds her the schedule hasn't even started yet. She says there's a place she needs to check. He asks where that is and she reveals it is Santarém. As she drives off, he thinks about the place. Even Brazil's association told them to avoid that area. She and her team arrive to find Dojun already there. She demands to know why he rushed in. Without looking back, he says he waited, they were just late. She tells him if he'd told them sooner, they would have been their way earlier. Anyways, what are they even here for, she asks. "Blue Croco," he says. She asks if that was seriously the only reason he came this far. He asks if he needs another reason. Juyeon reminds him she's 3 years older. He asks what that has to do with anything, and she tells him to show some respect. He asks if she wants things to get awkward or what, and if so, she can speak formally by herself. Their team finds it surprising he is actually bossing her around and wonder if it is really okay for them to just barge into a rift zone like that. One says that it looks like the newbie is taking the lead, and another corrects him. There are levels to newbies and they aren't all the same. Dojun might be the most legendary one they've seen. Juyeon asks if Dojun came to shut down the rift. He says he's here to gather materials. Why shut it down? He'll squeeze it for all it's worth, as she wonders what kind of materials he is talking about. A claw tears out of the dark. No one saw it coming, but one of them manages to block its strike, and they yell to get into formation. The armored creature steps out. One trembles, saying it's way worse than the pictures. Isn't this a bit dangerous, they ask. Dojun tells them to move aside. He draws his blade, remembering what Shialquin said. Getting a Blue Croco's heart with bare hands won't be easy. That's why he lent his prized sword to him and told him to use it to gather materials. Dojun falls into a stance, flashes past the monsters in the blink of an eye. They don't even realize it themselves as slashes all around their bodies appear. One guy's face lights up, saying he knew it, while others stare in shock at his insane strength and the monsters lie defeated. Later, the group takes a break, sitting in front of campfires. They talk about Dojun and how he took down the Blue Crocos in one hit. Counting how many he killed wouldn't even be possible, and he tells them to keep it quiet. But Dojun even took down the giant Cassarian bird all by himself. He is definitely not your average hero, which shows as Dojun is cooking up some Resident Evil steak in a pan. Juyeon asks if he's already finished collecting the monsters' hearts, and he points toward multiple ice containers behind them. She wonders what exactly he is planning to do with all those hearts and asks him what kind of meat he is grilling anyway. He tells her it's the Blue Croco's meat, which shocks her, and he even doubles down, asking if she'd like some. They have prepared plenty of food, and she wonders why he would eat something like that, but he tells her if she doesn't want to eat it, then she doesn't have to. Inju wonders if that stuff is really edible and safe to eat, and she, too, wonders why he isn't just eating what they brought. To everyone's surprise, Juyeon picks up a piece of meat with chopsticks, and Inju asks her if she is really about to eat that. She digs in and tells her he said it was delicious, so she takes a bite and is surprised. It actually tastes good. Inju asks our boy what his secret sauce is, wondering how he managed to charm Juyeon like that. She has never had a boyfriend and doesn't open her heart easily, so she asks him to spill it. He thinks back to his past life, back at the Imperial Academy. He wasn't even 20, and yet he already rizzed Lady Maisel of House Grain, as well as the daughter of House Leslie, Luenda, and lastly Veronica. He was basically known as the serial Rizzler, and Inju screams, asking if he is even listening. He turns to her and says, "Honey doesn't chase bees," and she freezes. It is the cringiest thing she's ever heard, and even Juyeon spits his meat out. Back in Sao Paulo, Youngpyo's assistant gives him the report. Youngpyo can't figure Juyeon's intentions out. The operation hasn't even started, and yet she rushed out there all of a sudden alongside Dojun, and even her guild went along. He asks if there are any valuable monsters near Santarém, but his assistant doesn't know. The Brazilian Association just told them it was extremely dangerous there. The phone rings and Youngpyo picks it up. It's Hiju, and the first thing she does is scream at Youngpyo, asking if that Dojun bastard is still alive. He tells her to calm down and have a Snickers. Why she is always rushing him, he asks. And she tells him her father has probably already seen the news about Dojun's S-rank awakening, and soon will insist on bringing him back home. Youngpyo tells her no wonder she is panicking, but having finally found her as a proper business partner, he will not disappoint her now. Dojun will absolutely never return alive from Brazil. She is relieved, telling him that's what she wanted to hear, and he tells her to hang up then and contact Takashi immediately, and to let him know Dojun just signed his death sentence by walking into an isolated place, which makes their job easier. Meanwhile, Dojun and the others head deeper, and Juyeon asks if he is really planning to do that, since they say even more dangerous monsters are out there. He asks what kind of monsters, and apparently there is a lynx. He already knows about that one though, and he keeps walking. As she isn't really surprised he already knows, she decides not to stop him but asks him to please wear these. She explains they are earplugs. If he is charmed by a lynx's cry, it will paralyze his mind. Didn't he already know that? He tells her there is no need for that, and she calls after him, saying not to underestimate them like that, but he doesn't turn back. At night, they are still walking around the jungle looking for monsters, as they get spotted by one from above. It is a lynx sitting in a tree, staring down at them with glowing red eyes, and they notice it too, as it is already howling at them, trying to paralyze the team. Inju calls for everyone to cover their ears, but Dojun is locked in an intense stare-down with the monster, not listening.